Laws are supposed to protect us, yet somehow humanity keeps writing rules that sound like they were drafted during a power outage at the logic factory. These aren't plot points from a rejected sitcom. They're actual regulations that real adults wrote down, approved, and enforced with a straight face. And if you think that's the peak of global stupidity, trust me, we haven't even hit the part where your brain starts begging for mercy. 1. In Switzerland, it's illegal to own just one guinea pig because apparently even rodents deserve better social lives than most adults. Switzerland, the land of chocolate, Alps, and emotional support rodents. The logic here is that guinea pigs are social creatures and get lonely, which is fair, but imagine being the government official who had to write that down with a straight face. Somewhere in a Swiss office, a grown adult in a suit declared, "One guinea pig? Criminal behavior." Meanwhile, actual humans are out here ghosting each other in group chats. But nope, the state is worried your guinea pig might develop abandonment issues. The best part? You can rent a temporary guinea pig when one dies, so the survivor isn't emotionally distressed. Switzerland won't let you be single, won't let your guinea pig be single. Truly a utopia of forced companionship. 2. In Denmark, parents legally cannot name their child whatever they want. The government has a pre-approved list of acceptable baby names. Imagine showing up to the maternity ward with a newborn, full of joy, love, and dreams, only for the Danish government to slap the baby's name like a failed exam. You want to name your kid Zephyr? Nope. Moonbeam? Denied. Sonic the Hedgehog Jr.? Absolutely not. Denmark said, "We've seen what modern parents are capable of. We're taking the wheel." There's something darkly hilarious about a country with Viking ancestry regulating names like it's running a medieval guild. And if you want a unique name, you must submit an application for approval, meaning your kid's identity has to pass a bureaucratic vibe check. Somewhere, a panel of officials is deciding which names are worthy while probably approving their 900th Lars. 3. In Thailand, it's illegal to step on money because the king's face is on the bills and coins. Thailand managed to create a law that turns the floor into a political crime scene. Accidentally drop a coin, step on it to stop it from rolling away, and congratulations, you've disrespected royalty and committed an offense. I'd bet good money, but I wouldn't step on it, that tourists learn this the hard way while chasing change across the sidewalk like panicked raccoons. It's one of those laws that makes sense historically, but feels less respectful tradition and more, the ground is lava, but legal. Imagine telling your friends back home you got fined because your reflexes were too good. What happened? I protected my quarter. 4. In Samoa, forgetting your wife's birthday is legally punishable. Somewhere in Samoa, a man once forgot a birthday so catastrophically that the government said, "No, we're legislating this." This is the only country on earth where your relationship issues come with court dates. Imagine getting pulled over and instead of checking your license, the officer asks, "Sir, what day is it?" This law turns every husband into a human calendar app. And honestly, you just know there's a judge who's heard the same excuse 1,000 times. "I swear, Your Honor, I remembered the cake, just not the date." It's the world's first legal system built partly on self-preservation and fear of the silent treatment. 5. In Singapore, chewing gum was banned for years because the government was tired of people sticking it everywhere. No country has ever declared war on gum quite like Singapore. This wasn't a cute little rule. This was a national crusade. The government took one look at gum on sidewalks, benches, and subway doors and said, "We will burn this problem to the ground." And they did, and with a nationwide ban that turned minty freshness into contraband. Picture a traveler trying to smuggle in gum like it's powdered gold. Meanwhile, people in other countries are worried about drugs, violence, crime, and Singapore is like, "No, our enemy is fruit stripe." To be fair, the city is spotless because gum crimes have consequences. 6. In France, it's illegal to name a pig Napoleon. France, a nation of philosophers, artists, and a deep-seated fear that barnyard animals will disrespect their historic icons. This law exists because the French government didn't want people giggling every time they yelled, Come here, Napoleon, dinner time. The idea that a pig could undermine national dignity is incredible. Imagine a French farmer surrounded by authorities because his pig accidentally wandered into being a revolutionary symbol. Honestly, the pig probably deserves it. Napoleon was short, round, and always hungry for more territory, which is pig-like. Maybe the government was a little too close to the truth. 7. In Italy's city of Milan, it's legally required to smile at all times, unless you're at a funeral or visiting a hospital. Finally, a city that said, "What if we legislate happiness?" Milan basically turned human expression into homework. Didn't feel like smiling today? Too bad. The law literally requires it, like you're living inside a dystopian toothpaste commercial. Imagine police handing out tickets for resting your face too honestly. Meanwhile, tourists walking through the city probably think everyone's just extremely welcoming, not realizing some locales are smiling like hostages because the government demands it. It's peak Italian drama. You will be joyful or else. 8. In Japan, it's illegal to be overweight according to government-set waistline measurements. Japan decided that body positivity was overrated and state-mandated slimness was the new trend. The government literally sends out waistline guidelines like it's running a nation-sized fitness club. And if you exceed the measurement, no, you don't go to jail, but your employer might get fined, which is somehow even worse. It's the only country where your stomach is a criminal accomplice. Imagine the stress of going to work and someone casually asks, "Did you pass your waist exam?" Japan basically turned adult health checks into a national report card. 9. In Australia, it's illegal to disrupt a wedding or funeral, with punishments up to 2 years in prison. Australia said, if you object at a wedding, object silently. Honestly, this feels targeted at that one guy who thinks he's the main character in every romantic comedy. The law covers anything from loud interruptions to causing a scene, which means even dropping your phone at a funeral could be considered a legal event. It's the perfect system. Weddings stay peaceful, funerals stay respectful, and nobody gets to stand up mid-ceremony and deliver a dramatic monologue. 2 years might seem extreme, but honestly, it probably saved countless relationships and several very awkward family gatherings. 10. In Canada, it's illegal to scare the Queen, even accidentally. Canada loves politeness so much that even startling royalty is a crime. This law was clearly written under the assumption that the monarch might appear at any moment like a wild Pokemon, and you must act accordingly. Imagine jogging in a park, turning a corner, and suddenly the Queen is there. And now you're a criminal because you gasped too loudly. Realistically, this law will never apply to any normal human being, but the idea that somewhere in Canadian legislation there's a sentence resembling "Don't spook the Queen" is peak Commonwealth energy. 11. In England, it's illegal to handle salmon suspiciously. Yes, the Salmon Act is real, and yes, you can technically break the law just by holding a fish in a shady manner. Imagine the police interrogating you. "Sir, why were you lurking near the river with that salmon?" The idea is to prevent illegal fish trading, but the phrasing is hilarious. Suspiciously? What counts as suspicious? Whispering to the salmon, wearing sunglasses indoors while carrying it. England somehow created a law that sounds like a Monty Python sketch. Honestly, if you're handling fish in a way that raises eyebrows, maybe jail is the least of your concerns. 12. In Scotland, if someone knocks and asks to use your toilet, you're legally required to let them in. Scotland loves hospitality so much, they made it mandatory. Picture this. You're home alone, enjoying a peaceful evening, and suddenly a stranger knocks on your door, sweating like he just finished a triathlon and says, "Bathroom, please." And the law says you have to let him. It's wholesome, chaotic, and just a little concerning. After all, modern society is built on avoiding strangers, not inviting them into your home at their most vulnerable moment. But hey, Scotland's priorities are simple: whiskey, kilts, and making sure no human bladder suffers on their watch. 13. In Greece, you're not allowed to wear high heels at ancient archaeological sites. Greek authorities took one look at thousands of years of history and said, "We refuse to let stilettos ruin this." Honestly, fair. But the image is hilarious. A security guard stopping tourists like, "Ma'am, those shoes could defeat the Parthenon." It makes sense, thin heels can damage stone, but it still feels wild that someone had to write a formal law about footwear. Imagine being the official who had to legally declare no weaponized shoes near ancient ruins. Greece is protecting history one banned shoe at a time. 14. In Germany, running out of fuel on the Autobahn is illegal. The Autobahn is a sacred high-speed temple, and Germany treats it accordingly. If you run out of gas, you're not just unlucky, you're a criminal. The logic? Stopping on the Autobahn is dangerous, but the implication is hilarious. The government basically decided that poor planning equals law breaking. Imagine explaining to the officer, "Yes, I may have been doing 108 km per h, but the real crime was being bad at math." Germany doesn't care how fast you go. Just make sure your fuel gauge isn't lying. 15. In China, reincarnation without government permission is illegal for Tibetan monks. This is one of those laws that sounds like satire, but is very real. China essentially told monks, "Listen, you can come back after death, but we need the paperwork first." It's bureaucracy reaching across dimensions. The spiritual meets the administrative in the worst possible crossover episode. Imagine a monk dying and a government clerk stamping a form like, "Approved for reincarnation. Please return to the physical realm within 8 business weeks." If reincarnation requires a permit, the afterlife must be a very well organized DMV. 16. In Mexico, bicycle riders can be fined for lifting their feet off the pedals. Mexico took one look at people riding with both legs flung out like joyful toddlers and said, "Absolutely not." The law is supposed to promote safety, but it's hilariously specific. Almost like someone on the city council witnessed one reckless cyclist and vowed vengeance. Imagine the police pulling you over for excessive whimsy. You weren't speeding, you weren't weaving, you were simply too happy. Mexico, where even fun has consequences. 17. In Sweden, it is illegal to spontaneously organize a public dance without a permit. Yes, Sweden, the land of IKEA and ABBA, requires paperwork before you dance in public. If you and your friends start grooving on the sidewalk and it resembles a dance event, the authorities can shut it down faster than a malfunctioning disco ball. Somewhere out there, a Swedish official is evaluating people's moves like, that hip sway looks dangerously coordinated. This is what happens when a country with excellent order and structure meets the chaotic forces of rhythm. Dancing queens? Sure. Dancing citizens? Not without authorization. 18. In Turkmenistan, opera and ballet were banned for years because the president decided they didn't reflect Turkmen culture, which is the diplomatic way of saying he woke up one morning, didn't vibe with classical music, and outlawed an entire art form like he was deleting a playlist. I love imagining the meeting where he announced it, officials nodding solemnly while thinking, "Sir, that's just dancing." Meanwhile, entire generations of kids grew up never witnessing a man in tights leap across a stage, which, depending on your personality, is either a tragedy or a blessing. Even after the ban, you just know there were underground ballet rings somewhere in the capital, secret gatherings where people whispered, "At midnight, we pirouette." When your national policy starts sounding like the plot of a dystopian Footloose reboot, you know you've arrived at peak government logic. 19. In the United Arab Emirates, swearing out loud or even in a text message can land you in jail because nothing says modern society like criminalizing spicy vocabulary. It's wild. You could be minding your business, texting your friend about the guy who cut you off in traffic, and suddenly you've committed a digital crime. Imagine autocorrect turning duck into the other thing, and now you're in court trying to explain that your phone is the real villain. The irony is that the UAE has some of the most chaotic traffic on Earth, yet the only illegal thing is what you say about it. Honestly, this law is probably enforced by the happiest police force in the world. Nobody ever shouts at them. You just simmer silently in your car like a polite tea kettle, praying Siri doesn't betray you again. 20. In Norway, it's illegal for prisoners to escape, sort of. But here's the twist. If you do escape and don't commit any crimes while you're out, they won't charge you for the escape itself. Norway basically looked at prison breaks and said, if you can pull it off politely, we'll allow it. It's like a national acknowledgement that being locked up isn't fun, and if you manage to slip out without hurting anyone, well, fair play. It's the world's most wholesome crime policy. Imagine a prisoner jogging away from the facility, waving at guards like, don't worry, I'll be respectful. The police catch you later, return you to your bed, and it's like nothing happened. No extra time. It's the ultimate indicator that Norway is running on pure vibes and muffins. 21. In the Philippines, playing cards during work hours is illegal in government offices unless it's part of a cultural event, meaning someone, somewhere, was so addicted to solitaire that lawmakers had to intervene. Imagine being such a dedicated card shark, you accidentally invent legislation. Picture the poor supervisor walking in on an entire office mid-go fish tournament and thinking, oh good, the country is definitely thriving. And because the government can never resist overthinking things, they included the hilarious exception for cultural activities, which I assume means someone argued Uno is historically significant. You just know there was one guy trying to pull off a poker face in a meeting to hide the fact he was literally playing poker. Bureaucracy works hard, but compulsive card players work harder. 22. In England, it's illegal to be drunk in a pub, which is like declaring it illegal to get sunburned at the beach. This law is basically the government saying, yes, you may drink, but not too well. Imagine bartenders being legally obligated to judge your level of chaos and cut you off the moment you cross into officially having fun. The best part is that the law specifically targets people who are drunk and disorderly, but the line is wonderfully vague. Is singing too loudly disorderly? Is telling your friend you love them for the fifth time disorderly? According to this rule, half of England has been committing casual crimes every Friday since 1828. If police ever enforced this properly, the entire country would be in handcuffs by midnight. 23. In North Korea, wearing blue jeans is banned because denim is apparently a symbol of American imperialism, which is hilarious considering jeans are the least rebellious clothing item ever invented. Somewhere in Pyongyang, a government official is staring at a pair of Levi's like it's a weapon of mass destruction. Imagine outlawing an entire fabric because it offends your geopolitical aesthetic. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is wearing denim to weddings, funerals, and job interviews without a second thought. And the irony, jeans were literally invented for manual labor, not democracy. But North Korea decided that the seam on your pants determines your loyalty, which is truly some next-level fashion policing. 24. In India, it's illegal to fly a kite without a permit in some regions because kites are classified as aircraft. Yes, your festive paper triangle is, legally speaking, in the same category as a Boeing. Somewhere in the government's paperwork, there is a line that essentially says, kite, ja, danger. Imagine little kids in line at a government office with a crayon-made kite, waiting for clearance from air traffic control like miniature pilots. And when officials talk about aircraft safety, somewhere in the fine print is your 99-cent kite from a street stall. This is what happens when bureaucracy goes sky high and refuses to come back down. 25. In South Korea, writing someone's name in red ink is considered a bad omen, and historically was used only to mark the names of the dead. So yes, one innocent wrong color pen choice, and suddenly you've symbolically murdered your coworker. Imagine the horror on someone's face when you casually sign a birthday card in red, instant social crime scene. The rule has cultural roots, sure, but it's absolutely wild how quickly a simple pen color can escalate into a spiritual panic. It's like the universe's least intimidating murder weapon, a ballpoint pen. Somewhere in Seoul, someone is still whispering, he used red, what was he planning? 26. In France, it's technically illegal to kiss on train platforms to prevent delays because apparently the passion of French lovers was interrupting national transportation. The law is rarely enforced today, but the idea that this ever needed to exist is incredible. Imagine two people saying goodbye while a conductor stands nearby like a strict wedding planner. All right, folks, wrap it up. The 415 is not waiting for romance. France, the country that gave the world existentialism, fine wine, and gourmet cheese, yet could not handle an extra 30 seconds of smooching without losing its mind. Honestly, I respect the commitment to efficiency. Love is eternal, but train schedules are sacred. 27. In the state of Arizona, you can't let a donkey sleep in your bathtub after 7 p.m. This is not a metaphor. This is not a joke. This is an actual law, presumably born from someone's donkey-related disaster. Legend has it that a donkey was washed away in a bathtub during a flood, and rescuing it caused such chaos that lawmakers said, never again. The mental image alone is worth the price of admission. A confused donkey lounging in a porcelain tub like it's having a spa day, while lawmakers scramble to legislate bedtime bath rules. This is why America can't have nice things, because every law has a backstory, and the backstories are always unhinged. 28. In China, certain cities ban reincarnation without government permission, but wait, we already covered monks specifically earlier, so here's a twist. Other regions ban funerals that are too extravagant, including paid mourners who cry on your behalf. Imagine living in a society where even your grief has to follow government guidelines. No dramatic sobbing, no Oscar-worthy performance, just a calm, regulation-approved farewell. Somewhere in bureaucratic files is a chart for acceptable crying volume. The idea that officials were sitting in a room thinking, funerals are getting too lit, we need to regulate sadness, is peak humanity. 29. In Switzerland, flushing your toilet after 10 p.m. in some apartment buildings is considered noise pollution and discouraged or outright banned. Switzerland said, silence is golden, especially in the bathroom. Imagine being half asleep, needing to flush, and negotiating with your conscience like you're in a hostage situation. Do I risk a fine, or do I let fate decide in the morning? It's the only place where digestion can become a criminal risk, and don't even try explaining to a guest that the toilet is on a curfew. In Switzerland, even your plumbing must obey the social contract. 30. In Canada, it's technically illegal to publicly remove a bandage in some provinces because apparently the sight of an exposed band-aid is just too scandalous for society to bear. Imagine ripping off a bandage only to realize you've become a walking misdemeanor. Who is this law protecting? The general public from the horror of your slightly healed paper cut. Somewhere, someone must have committed a truly grotesque bandage removal incident that traumatized an entire town council. It's the only law that punishes good hygiene. 31. In Japan, many public pools ban tattoos because they're associated with organized crime, meaning your butterfly ankle tattoo is being treated with the same suspicion as a mafia back piece. Imagine showing up with a cute little flower tattoo and the staff reacting like you walked in covered in flaming skulls and holding a briefcase of illegal cash. The rule technically targets gang members, but in practice, it punishes anyone who's ever made a mildly impulsive decision at a beach vacation. Japan really said, no crime, no gang signs, and absolutely no infinity symbols. 32. In Greece, certain islands have banned high-decibel shoes, yes, loud shoes, because the clacking sound damages historic sites and disrupts the peace. Imagine being escorted out of a temple because your sandals are too enthusiastic. Somewhere in the Greek tourism guidelines is a sentence that essentially says, please refrain from sonic footwear. And honestly, it makes sense, but the mental image is brilliant. A security guard solemnly telling someone, your shoes are too powerful for this ancient marble. Greece protects its ruins like a protective parent, not with those heels, young lady. 33. In the Netherlands, it's illegal to keep your phone on loudspeaker while cycling because Dutch society is built on the groundbreaking concept of not crashing into things. Cyclists are basically the dominant species there, so the government enforces rules to keep them alive. Imagine pedaling through Amsterdam, phone blasting a ringtone from 2007, while a police officer pulls you over like, "Sir, please stop multitasking like you're in a circus." Honestly, it's one of the saner laws on this list, but the idea that someone had to be told, "Hey, maybe keep both hands for the bike," is incredibly on brand for humanity. 34. In Russia, driving a dirty car is illegal in some cities, which means even your vehicle has to maintain social standards. Imagine getting pulled over not for speeding, but because your bumper looks a bit embarrassed. It's the only place where a car wash is basically a form of civic duty. The logic is to prevent obscured license plates, but the execution is hilarious. Your car becomes a fashion statement under legal threat. Somewhere in Moscow, a police officer is holding a ticket book, squinting at a dusty fender like an art critic. Da, unacceptable. 35. In Finland, it's illegal to keep your headlights off even in broad daylight because the Finnish government apparently looked at the sun, this giant flaming skyball, and said, "Not bright enough." So now every car looks like it's trying to communicate with alien ships at noon. Imagine visiting Finland, stepping outside and seeing every vehicle glowing like it's auditioning for a sci-fi reboot. The whole country basically treats driving like a perpetual low-budget music video. And the funniest part? Finns barely question it. They just nod solemnly and flip the lights on like, yes, safety. Meanwhile, I'm standing there wondering how dark your national personality has to be for daylight to require assistance. It's the only place where your car gets in trouble for being too optimistic about visibility. 36. In Vermont, women technically need their husband's written permission to wear false teeth, which is one of those laws that makes you want to travel back in time and confiscate every pen from every legislator who voted for it. The sheer domestic micromanagement here is unreal. Imagine a lady waking up and saying, "Honey, my teeth aren't feeling social today." And he pulls out a quill like he's signing a royal decree. This is the kind of rule that proves lawmakers were bored out of their minds, sitting in a room thinking, what else can we control? Ah, yes, dental vibes. Picture the chaos at the DMV if this were enforced today. A separate line for dentures, husbands standing behind wives like parental permission slips. Vermont, where dental autonomy goes to die. 37. In Chile, you can't publicly display the national flag any old way. You must do it perfectly or face fines. And I don't mean don't set it on fire or don't use it as a tablecloth. I mean, the government expects you to be a certified flag technician. Imagine waking up on Independence Day, proudly hanging your flag, only to discover the angle is slightly off, and now you're a criminal patriot. Somewhere in Santiago, an official is inspecting flags with the precision of a NASA engineer. Ah, yes, this flag is 2 degrees too celebratory. The rule is meant to show respect, but it's hilariously intimidating. I'd be terrified to even touch a flag there, scared it might spontaneously violate me back. 38. In Nevada, it's illegal to ride a camel on the highway, which begs the question, who exactly was commuting by camel often enough for the law to be necessary? I want to meet the original camel rebel, trotting down Route 50 like it's the Silk Road, holding up traffic while drivers scream, "Sir, this is a highway, not a desert cosplay convention." Nevada's solution wasn't "don't ride your camel here," but "we will literally write a law to stop your dusty shenanigans." It's the greatest accidental confession. At some point, this was a repeating problem. Imagine the citation, reason for stop, camel. Honestly, I think Nevada should bring it back. Tourism would explode. 39. In France's capital region, flying drones is heavily restricted, meaning Paris, one of the most photographed cities in the world, has legally banned the modern version of a flying selfie stick. The idea is safety, but the result is incredibly poetic. The Eiffel Tower watched millions of tourists evolve from postcards to smartphones, but drew the line at tiny buzzing robots. Imagine wanting a scenic aerial shot and instead being approached by police officers who treat your drone like it's a tiny illegal spaceship. The irony? Paris invented half the world's romantic cliches, but now it's terrified of camera equipped insects. Somewhere, a drone pilot is crying in cinematic French. 40. In Germany, it's illegal to address a police officer with the informal du instead of the respectful sei, because the German language itself demands you respect authority. Imagine getting fined not for speeding, not for disturbing the peace, but for grammar. Somewhere in Berlin, a cop is saying, "Sir, you weren't rude. You were linguistically disrespectful." It's the only country where you can accidentally commit a crime simply by being too friendly. Germany doesn't just enforce law and order, it enforces pronouns. Meanwhile, tourists are out here panicking, scrolling through phrase books like how many years in prison for using the wrong verb tense. 41. In Australia's state of Victoria, it's illegal to change a light bulb unless you're a licensed electrician, meaning your IKEA floor lamp is basically government property. Imagine rushing to fix a bulb and suddenly feeling like a rogue outlaw, standing on a chair in your living room, glancing nervously at the door like the light bulb police might kick it down. Australia has venomous spiders, giant snakes, and heat waves that melt roads, but apparently the deadliest household threat is you, armed with a 40-watt bulb and ambition. It's the only place where DIY becomes don't, I insist. 42. In Italy, feeding pigeons in Venice is illegal because apparently the pigeons unionized at some point and demanded protection from tourists with crumbs. Venice finally snapped after centuries of being outnumbered by its own birds and said, "No more carbs for you." Imagine dropping a single breadcrumb and immediately feeling like you violated international peace treaties. The city is stunning, timeless, magical, and mildly hostile to pigeons who now wander around looking betrayed. Somewhere, a tourist is still whispering, "I didn't know." They looked hungry. As a local guard writes them a fine the size of a gondola rental. 43. In Japan's Okinawa region, it's illegal to dance clubs after midnight without a special license, turning nightlife into a bureaucratic rave. Imagine the DJ checking his watch at 11:59 p.m., shouting, "All right, everyone, last legal shoulder shimmy." And when the clock hits midnight, the entire crowd transforms from party animals to stiff mannequins, avoiding police eye contact. It's hilarious because Okinawa literally gave the world some of the happiest music traditions, but the modern version gets a curfew. Somewhere, a bouncer is explaining, "No, you're allowed to drink, you're allowed to talk, just don't move rhythmically." 44. In Singapore, walking around your house naked with the curtains open counts as indecent exposure, meaning even inside your own home, your butt must obey the law. Singapore doesn't play games with modesty. They treat windows like potential crime scenes. Imagine getting fined because you grabbed a midnight snack wearing nothing but confidence and were spotted by a distant neighbor with binocular level vision. The country is spotless, efficient, safe, and apparently terrified of your unclothed silhouette. This is the only place where you can break the law by existing too comfortably. 45. In the Maldives, importing alcohol is illegal for tourists unless it's consumed inside a resort, which technically means the entire nation is running the world's most elaborate "don't drink outside the hotel" policy. Imagine stepping off the plane ready for vacation and being greeted by customs officers who treat your duty-free rum like you're smuggling plutonium. The Maldives is paradise on water, as long as your margarita never touches land. Somewhere, a tourist is on a boat whispering, "Is this still resort property? I need to know before I sip." 46. In Sweden, advertising directed at children under 12 is illegal because Sweden looked at the global marketing industry and said, "Absolutely not. You will not manipulate the tiny humans." It's wholesome, but also hilarious. Imagine being a Swedish toy company trying to sell products without ever showing them to the demographic that actually wants them. "Hey adults, here's a plastic fire truck. Buy it for someone much shorter." Meanwhile, every Swedish kid is accidentally growing up like a monk, unbothered by jingles, cereal mascots, or commercials yelling, "Buy now." Honestly, kids there probably have no idea SpongeBob toys even exist until one randomly appears in their house like a mystical artifact. 47. In Portugal, peeing in the ocean is technically illegal, which is adorable because the ocean is literally the world's largest toilet, and humans have been disrespecting it for centuries. But Portugal tried, bless their hearts, to regulate bodily fluids in a body of water roughly the size of human arrogance. Imagine the government thinking they can stop beachgoers from relieving themselves while knee-deep in waves. Good luck. Somewhere on a beach, a lifeguard is narrowing his eyes at swimmers like, "I know what you're doing." This law is basically the legal equivalent of wishful thinking. 48. In Germany, it's illegal to play loud music or hammer nails on Sundays due to quiet hours, which feels less like a rule and more like Germany collectively saying, "We are tired." Sunday is sacred. No power tools, no loud hobbies, no home construction. You can't even vacuum aggressively. The entire country goes into energy-saving mode like a nation-sized phone on low battery. Imagine being mid-renovation and suddenly having to freeze because the clock struck quiet time. Somewhere, a German father is sitting on his sofa, staring longingly at a drill he cannot touch. 49. In Bhutan, smoking tobacco is largely banned and importing it is illegal, making Bhutan the world's strictest anti-smoking nation, basically the opposite of any casino in Vegas. Imagine trying to explain to customs that the cigarettes in your bag are actually tea leaves with confidence issues. Bhutan prioritizes happiness and clean living, which is beautiful, but also gives off extreme. We saw what cigarettes did to other countries, and we're not leading that energy in here vibes. Visitors end up sneaking around like undercover nicotine agents, terrified of lighting anything that produces smoke. Even campfires look suspicious. 50. In Canada, pretending to practice witchcraft is illegal, but practicing actual witchcraft is not, meaning Canada has somehow created the world's first legally recognized authenticity clause for magic. Imagine getting arrested not for being a witch, but for being a bad one. "Ma'am, your spell work is fraudulent. Please come with us." The law is meant to stop scammers, but the phrasing is so magical that somewhere in Ontario, a real witch is breathing a sigh of mystical relief. Canada, the country where even sorcery must be honest. 51. And finally, in Samoa, it is illegal to forget your wife's birthday. Yes, the same Samoa that punishes love's greatest misdemeanor with actual legal consequences. And honestly, this law is the perfect grand finale because it sums up humanity's entire relationship with rules. We legislate gum, pigeons, donkeys, flags, genes, bladders, reincarnation, and now, basic emotional competence. Imagine being hauled into court because you didn't remember a date printed on your phone, your calendar, and your soul. The judge doesn't even need evidence. Your wife's expression is enough. It's the ultimate mic drop law. A country so done with human stupidity that it brought marital forgetfulness into the justice system. And honestly, out of everything on this list, this one might be the most justified. And there you have it, a global highlight reel of laws so baffling they make reality feel like a badly written sitcom. If your brain survived, congratulations. If it didn't, welcome to the club. Now tell me in the comments, which one deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award in stupidity, and which country should we investigate next? Hit like, subscribe, and buckle up. Humanity's nonsense goes way deeper than this.